I don't know. I have no idea why I have been invited to speak. So, you are not going to listen from me anything that you were expecting. All right. Anjuli, Chantal, Andrea, and Suresh, and respected colleagues. We are here to talk about Suresh's legacy. But the question is, where did he come from? What did he inherit? You will have to be little, I request your indulgence because I want to talk to you about his background and about India. He was born in a little village in the western state of India called Ladnu. Now, to understand history, we have to go back 5,000 years. Ladnu was the center of the world's greatest civilization. 5,000 years ago, there was a civilization that has agriculture surplus, copper, bronze, bricks. They had private houses. Each one has a private well. They had bathrooms, and the cities covered drainage system more than 1,000 cities. Half of the world, even today, does not have the housing and drainage system they had at that time. That is from 5,000 years to 2,000 years ago. Then Aryans came with their weapons and they controlled the local population, and there was an apartheid system, but extremely efficient. From then onward until 1757, India all had the highest per capita income in the world for 5,000 years. Very high life expectancy, more than twice that of Europe. Our agricultural surplus was 100%. India was exporting half of its industrial output. It was every little village was a hybrid between urban and rural area. Then the British came. And for 190 years, they carpet bombed India's economy, Scotch Earth policy. The country with the highest per capita income became the country with the smallest per capita income. Think for a moment what happened to Nagasaki and Hiroshima in 1945 is what happened to India even without atom bomb. 165 million people perished that rule and all this. So when the British left in 109, World War ended in 45. We were born in 46 and India became independent in 47. And we had 50% deficit in food. 90% people could not meet their basic needs. In that environment, India became a democracy. India became the first democracy in the world. No, not America. America did not become democracy until 1965 with the voting age. England and France were never democracy. Even after World War, French were killing people in Algeria, British in Africa. With this situation, India created 5 engineering schools in 5 corners. And we had a joint admission test, and the admission rate was 1%. And Suresh ranked 90% of 1%. So Suresh was at 99.9 percentile. There was interview. And Suresh found there was going to be an eye exam. He had some issues with his eyes. So he decided to cheat. He went and memorized everything that was on the screen, which the doctor was going to check. And he passed the eye exam with flying colors. And the school has still not decided whether to withdraw his diploma because he cheated in the admission. We were in the same dorm. I met him sometime on the 10th of July. It was a Tuesday in the dining room. He was in a different building of the same dorm. We were both in mechanical engineering. In first year, we were in different section. But after second year, it was a 5-year integrated program. It was more sophisticated and advanced than any program at MIT, Caltech, or Stanford, because 5 years we had to be in the classroom or lab for 35 hours per week. 18 hours of lecture, 5 hours of tutorial, 15 hours of lab. We had to major in science, majored in engineering, minored in electrical engineering, civil engineering, chemical engineering. And it covered half of the MS courses in American universities. It was a tough program. And then beginning second year, because his name started with S. Sethi and I was Singhal, his roll number was 53, mine was 55. So we were partners in the lab, or he was at the next table. So we had to tolerate each other for 4 years. Now, when we had one good thing, first, he did his share of work in the lab. You know, some people do less work than others. Second, if you fudge your numbers, you can go home early. He never fudged. He was very honest. Then, when we were taught indeterminate quantities, he noticed that 1 to the power n is equal to 1. If you invert it with logarithm, then log 1 to the base 1 is n, and n could take any value. Therefore, log 1 to base 1 was an indeterminate quantity. He wrote a piece, and we were all impressed. Our mathematics head chair of the department told him in the class, "You are not an ordinary student." That was perhaps the biggest compliment Suresh has received in his life. Then we learned statistics. He and another friend went to the president of the university that you should use both mean and standard deviation, mean and variance in grading. The university president simply threw them out of the office. Now, there was a reputation that this person was a genius. Look, we were teenagers, so I heard other things. He's all messed up, he's crazy, and my favorite, he was insane. That all those things still apply to him. Now, then he went to Washington State for MBA, CMU for PhD. He worked with John Danzig at Stanford after his doctorate. So I will rush from here. He spent a year in Rice and then went to Toronto, and he got tenure there perhaps 2 years after getting his PhD. And then there were publications after publications after publications. Something people were surprised. I was not. I will come back to his research record in a minute. I stayed with him at his home in Toronto in 1974. And those who know Suresh, he always has something new to tell you. He was not happy with management science. He was not happy with operations research. And he said, marketing has its journal, finance has its journal. They publish in management science too. How come we don't have our journal? I listened to him. I left and I came back to Houston. I told one of my colleagues at there, Bill Lee, that this is what Suresh Sethi told me. Bill Lee is the person who took it to heart, and he is the one who founded the Journal of Operations Management. Things changed. In 1989, we created POM Journal and POMS. We created the society and the journal. 99% OM community from Informs became its member. And the first issue was edited by a ghost editor, George Shantikumar. I later learned that management science also had a ghost editor for the first issue. It was not West Churchman, but it was Bill Cooper who edited this special issue. Now there is a problem. When you create a new journal, people are not willing to accept it as a top journal. When Journal of Financial Economics was created with great Paul Samuelson on its editorial team, the Journal of Finance people said, no, 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 this is a second level journal. Same thing happened to marketing science. These things are normal. You remember Max Planck admonition, a new scientific tool doesn't triumph by convincing its opponents and making them see the light, but rather because its opponent eventually die and a new generation grows up that is familiar with it. So we were all hoping that after 20 years, those who don't think POM is a great journal, they will die and the new generation will see that it's a great journal. Now, here comes the role for the Suresh. First, he is the one who is behind putting in my head. And there were two more people who put in my head, Howley and Kim Clark. They were ordinary associate professor. Howley became a superstar. Kim Clark went on to become the dean of the Harvard Business School. But Suresh is the one who was never happy. He has my home telephone number and he would call me. When you start a new company or something new, it takes time. And he should have learned from Frank Bass, who was on your faculty. His main contribution to literature is there are people who accept something first in the beginning, others take less. He would always call me, Kalyan, this is wrong, we have to improve this. This is wrong, we have to improve that. It was annoying, but it helped me in understanding what to do next. But three top contributors to the journals were MIT, Harvard, and Wharton. What more do you need? I told Suresh repeatedly that Suresh, you should have some patience. Then Informs saw the success of Palms and started MSOM. That should have given Suresh a message that Palms was a success. But no, he wouldn't take that. He would call me and give me a bad time and said, no, we have to do better. It was annoying. He got on my nerves one evening. Now, the highest recognition in 1996, even before MSOM started, lots of top people in the world, Dean of Harvard Business School, Dean of UCLA, professors from Harvard and MIT and Stanford wrote a letter to all business school deans that this is a top journal. The chairman of Procter & Gamble wrote to all deans, this is a great journal. But for Suresh, that was not enough. He called me one day and he had a long conversation. It was annoying, except that I did not get upset with him, partly because he was more loyal to POM than I was. And second, somehow he believed that I can do miracle. Miracles don't happen. How do you get reputation? Now, getting on Business Week list was impossible because Business Week, what it did, they go to the top schools and ask their professor which are the top journal, and they are always conservative. They first they said unpleasant things about Journal of Financial Economics, Marketing Science, which was one of its co-founder was Frank Bass. And so that was out of the question. The Financial Times list review was still 4 years ahead. I lost sleep that night because of Suresh. Next morning, I got up and I had a eureka moment. I wrote a 1.5-page letter, sent it to Paul Kleindorfer of Wharton, who was vice president of publication, gave him the name of a young woman who was on its editorial team, who was responsible for selecting journals, and who was a Kellogg graduate. Paul called me 10 minutes later that he corrected a typo and he sent it to her, that POM should be included. Minutes after she received my letter, she included POM in the Business Week list. I have never told Suresh until today. It was because of him POM got on the Business Week list, and the community said, finally, POM has arrived. So, this is how persistent Suresh is. I will always remain, the community will remain grateful to Suresh for what he helped accomplish. Now, moving away, he built OM Group at Dallas, UTD. We published a paper on that, how he built OM Group last year. Now, let me go over his research record. He has 33,861 citation. His H index is 89, greater than H index of some top journals. His I-10 index is 336. Now I have a question for all of you. His highest citation is in a 1990 paper. He's the second author. Can you guess who the lead author of this paper is? The most cited paper by Suresh, who is the lead author? If you already know, then you don't get any brownie points. But if you don't know, and if you can guess, then you get tons of brownie points. Send me an email and you will get a reward from me. Anybody? No, I will tell you. The lead author of that article is Andrea Sethi, his wife. Now, what is so great about Suresh's research? Remember, I told you that in IIT days, some people thought he was insane. That is true. Only an insane person in this record can publish 400 papers and a dozen books. But what is so unusual about his research? He has depth. Yes, that's how you get published in top journals. But he has breadth. Breadth is of three kinds. One, you do interdisciplinary research. Two disciplines on the intersection exist, new knowledge. Second, you have some idea of other disciplines and you have a view of the whole field, just like panoramic view, just like Mendeleev's table. But Suresh is very unusual. He will take a problem in any field, finance, marketing, any field, and he will understand it and then go to the last mile and publish a top article. 2 weeks ago was the 135th birthday of Agatha Christie. And one young lady asked its character in one of the novels, Hercule Poirot, Poirot, are you listening? And he said, Mademoiselle, I'm not only listening, I also hear you. With Suresh, when he studies a new domain, very quickly he will grasp the essence of it. He has great analytical abilities, and then he will raise it to a higher level. That is what he has, depth and breadth. And it is perhaps a coincidence that all four keynote speakers also are on the similar line. All of them have depth and breadth. Annabelle Feng, David Simchi Levy, Sridhar Tayur, and Chris Tang. They are four of our stalwarts who have depth and breadth. Now comes about his connections. Herbert Simon was his professor, although he did not work with him, but still Herbert Simon wrote recommendation letters for him. Herbert Simon, perhaps the greatest social scientist other than Karl Marx, and the father of artificial intelligence. But there is something unusual. We all try and network with people who are more famous than us, who are more accomplished. But in Suresh, it was the other way around. When he was on Toronto faculty, its finance professors invited Harry Markowitz. And they asked Harry Markowitz, what can we do to make your stay in Toronto more pleasurable, more comfortable? And you know what he said? He said he wants to have dinner with Suresh Sethi, who did not know Harry Markowitz until then. So it was Harry who wanted to network Sethi, and they became friends for life. So much so that Harry recognized me because of Suresh. Once I wanted his help, he used his own money to send me a letter by Federal Express. Then, when Suresh was in a meeting in Kingston, Rhode Island, somebody stopped him and said, "Oh, you are the Sethi?" That person has seen an article written by Sethi and his common friend, somebody who this man knew very well. Who was this person? This person was Nobel laureate Kenneth Arrow, another Nobel laureate who reached out to Suresh. And then Suresh went on to publish three papers, one in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Uh, Let me tell you something, that a person of his research record never served as editor of a top journal. Why not? First, he would not serve on editorial board of journals. He won't reach out to the editor, say, "Can I serve on your team?" No, he was busy with research. Then in one particular year, when there was search for management science editor, the search committee chair was a former editor-in-chief of management science whom I knew well. So I nominated a friend. This chair of the search committee called me a day before the final meeting that, "Look, we have met twice and your candidate is at the top, but he never submitted an explanation as to what he would do as an editor." So I called my nominee and said, "Come on, write a one-page note and I'll send it to the chair of the search committee." I sent it to the chair of the search committee. The next day, the chair of the search committee called me in the evening and said, "Kalyan, your candidate is going to be the editor-in-chief of management science." And he also added, "By the way, your IIT classmate Suresh Sethi was a runner-up. Although his credentials were better, he did not have editorial experience, so we did not select." I had bigger cognitive dissonance than ever in my life. Because of me, only if I had not asked my nominee to send in that one-page note, Suresh would have been editor-in-chief of management science. I have told Suresh about this anecdote. Now, this is all about his accomplishments. But so what? He has published those papers. He's a great researcher. Is that good enough to be a great person? No. That has nothing to do with anything in life. What kind of person is he? Does he take care of himself? First, even as a teenager, he was like a child in many ways. He has a child's curiosity. And as we grow older, there is always a trade-off between being tactful and clarity of communication. Tact was never his forte. He would say exactly what he thought. For him, tact is a vastly overrated virtue. And he remains so even until today. He's teenager in every respect. He enjoys life. He enjoys good food. He enjoys travel. He will call me from all kinds of places, video call. "Look, Kalyan, I'm doing such and such thing. So what should I do with it?" Then he will tell me who he was staying with. He will introduce me to that person. He will show scenes. For him, enjoyment of life is important. He does research because he enjoys it. The secret of life is not to have stress, to enjoy yourself. If you try to be tactful, you have to think twice. Then you get stress. He doesn't think. What he thinks, he says. If you tell lies, you have to have good memory, you have to remember. He has good memory otherwise, but he never tells lies. I will tell you one more interest of him. Did you know he has a YouTube channel of his own? He sings and he uploads his music, and he's a great singer. At least he thinks he is a great singer. Now, he has had 2 million views and he has 6,000 subscribers. I'll give you 10 seconds to guess how much money he has made so far. His school doesn't pay him enough. So he has made $400. So he is good to himself. Look how young he looks. He looks young because of all these reasons. He's a teenager in every respect. He enjoys life. Research is not the goal. It's a part of his enjoyment. With doing all these, he travels everywhere, does all these things, and he still manages to publish 7 or 8 papers per year. Second, that is about himself. What about his family? Anjali and Chantal, I want to tell you that whenever we talk once or two or three, 4 times, if we talk 4 times, at least once we talk about you. And I always remind him that all this publication is useless. What matters at the end of the day is your health and your family. And the way he talks about his daughters is remarkable. How wonderful he can be of his father. He's very proud of them. He tells me all the details about their teenage years, how they are handling. He never said a single thing that he disapproved about what Anjali or Chantal did. And then he talks about Andrea, how fond he is of his family. To him, his family and his health are a lot more important than all the publications put together. So he's a good person. Second, how he treats his co-author. Herbert Simon wrote in his autobiography that he had 89 co-authors. What happens with co-authors is that you have coded knowledge you read, you have your memory bank, but when you have a co-author, they have knowledge that is not coded. So you derive benefits from that. Suresh is aware of what Herbert Simon wrote, but he has 150 co-authors and 70 PhD and postdoc students. I have talked to his co-authors. They tell me how much effort Suresh puts in that. You know, when there are co-authored papers, some people put in more time than others. Suresh always puts more than his share. He takes their work and raises it to a higher level. Just like I told you, he takes the research, he will study the domain, his analytical capability, and he goes to the last mile. In 3 years ago, two scholars wrote a short piece on the contribution of Nobel laureates to operations management. Suresh took that paper and created magic with this because he is not satisfied until he takes it to top. It is like a commercial 50 years ago. We will not sell wine until it is time. Now, I come back to where I started about Ladnu, his little town, where we came from. He comes from a country which was for 5,000 years had the highest per capita income. Then it was completely destroyed. 90% people were poor. But is that what is happening in India alone? No. Let me talk about India, then America, then the rest of the world, and then I will tell you why I'm telling you on Suresh's birthday. In 1968, the average wage in America as a percentage of per capita income, since 68, it has decreased 45%. That means average worker is much worse than average per capita income in America. The share of the income of bottom half as has decreased from 20% of the national economy to 13%. This is what is happening in America. I told you about India. The third, about the rest of the world. There are 8 billion people on this earth. With all this knowledge, 6 billion people are below the poverty line of the United States adjusted to local purchasing. For example, poverty level income in America is $20. In India, prices are 30%, so $6. So if you use that criteria, 6 billion people cannot meet their needs. There is not much I can do, you can do, or Suresh can do. But there is a fundamental question. I talk to economists, to professors. None of the business school literature talks about them. Economists don't talk about this. Then why are we doing all this research? Why do we have all these business schools? What? Who are we serving? Who are we serving? I don't see any business school book that gives the statistics I just gave you. Even the economists don't want to talk about it. And one of the reasons is there are two possible reasons. They want to work for the rich, or they don't know what to do about how to raise the incomes of 75% of the population. Now, how does it relate to Suresh? Many of my friends in professional community, classmates, they say, come on, over time, there will be trickle down effect. That means the people at the bottom will get the trickle and everybody else will enjoy the life, comfortable air conditioned homes, Mercedes cars, and every great retirement income and so forth. So I discussed with Suresh a couple of times. I am happy to tell. We may not be able to do anything, but we should be aware of this and on which side of divide we are. I am happy to tell you that Suresh is with those 6 billion people. He has told me once he used the day-to-day language, Kalyan, I am a bleeding heart liberal. That means he understands the problem. So here is an accomplished scholar who has done magic with his research, who enjoys his life like a teenager, who is wonderful to his family, who is wonderful to his co-author, and he is concerned about the 6 billion people. Now, what next? Suresh doesn't compete with anybody. Never, never, never. In IIT days or since then, he competes only with himself. That means today has to be an improvement over yesterday. What that means is that his best is yet to come. Suresh, I'll hold my breath and wait for your centenary celebration. I'll be there. And there is one more promise. A few weeks ago, I threatened him that, look, you are taking a risk in inviting me. I will not only toast but roast you, and I will reveal several state secrets about you. His response was delightful. He says, how do I care? I'm 80 years old. Go ahead and say whatever you want. But I am giving him a break today. You are still on a short leash, and I will decide what to say when I come to your centenary. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, and happy birthday to Suresh. Wish you a very, very long time beyond your centenary. And more than that, congratulations to Anjali, Chantal, and Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm all done.